Thanks so much for tuning in. Tonight is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight we have an amazing group of individuals on the show. And tonight we're talking about a lot of things, kind of navigating queer dating, relationships, heteronormativity, a lot to talk about tonight. Before we get started, let's introduce our amazing panelists. So would y'all like to introduce yourselves? Who'd like to go first?
I'm Trill.
Okay.
PhD student at FIU. So.
What you studying? Tell the people what you studying. Go ahead.
What?
What are you studying?
Biochemistry.
Oh, okay, there you go.
She's smart.
A little bit.
I don't know shit.
Period. Boo.
Alright, who else want to go?
Hello, my name is Joseph. I'm from Pueblo Pijao. I'm a chem major. And yeah, thank you. Shout out to Sam Suki. We're on your land. Thank you for having us here. We're guests here.
I love that.
Go ahead. Who else want to go?
My name is Ian. I'm from Puerto Rico. I was on a previous episode with my friend Herson talking about being Muslim and Islamophobia, and I hope we get to talk about all the intersections tonight.
Absolutely. And I see the face you made when he said Puerto Rico. I saw that face you made.
No, I was like, that's what's up.
I like that accent. I see you.
Yes, I liked it.
And who are you?
Hi, my name is Imani. I've been on here a couple of times before with Tristan. I am a student at FIU, undergrad student, studying sociology. And I think you guys said where you guys are from. I'm Caribbean, I'm Guyanese and Belizean. So, definitely got some,
No spice.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please feel free to ask questions, post comments. Our panel is extremely knowledgeable. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing.
Well, should we say our pronouns and...
We should always say our pronouns.
Yeah, and our identifiers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I was like, we should do that.
Absolutely.
My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a queer woman of color, a lesbian. Yeah.
I'm he, him.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
I've never done this before.
He, him, a gay man, is that the vocabulary that Trin lent to me? What does that mean? I'll tell you more in a second.
We'll get right to that.
Yeah.
I'm a stud. Like, what else is there to say? I like women, okay? That's about it.
Do you prefer we refer to you with he or she?
She.
She.
Yeah, don't call me he.
Okay.
You're gonna make me mad.
She, her, hers.
I don't feel like I look that much like a boy.
Yeah.
And I'm losing my voice right now. That's the only reason it's deep.
So you can use whatever pronouns with me. I'm really indifferent, but I pretty much present myself as he, him. So most people will assume I'm that, but you can use they, them, she, her. I really don't care. I'm queer, two-spirit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, thank y'all again for being here. Again, please feel free to ask questions and post comments. So let's jump into this thing. Heteronormativity. This is a very academic word. What does it mean? What does it mean to y'all? And y'all feel free also to jump in and let us know, what does heteronormativity mean to y'all? So
for me, I'll start. Well, for me, heteronormativity is basically pretty much how straight cis people define the world. They make certain rules and they expect people to abide for those rules. And then we as queer people pretty much are indifferent about those rules. So we get to experience the world in a way that we don't navigate with these rules in mind, and that unfortunately leads to a lot of straight people to being upset at us because we don't conform to how they view the world, how their view of the world should be,
I think also though about queer people kind of not really always navigating in heteronormativity. I took a queer rhetorics class last semester, and we actually talked about we read some articles about how a lot of things that we do actually kind of is in alignment with heteronormativity, like the fact that gay people want to get married, the fact that gay people want to have two people households, and what else, have children, have families and things like that, and just what does that mean? Is that us kind of being in alignment with heteronormativity and things like that? So I think that can be the other side of things sometimes, heteronormativity, because it's like it's so ingrained, so that it's like how do you know if you're like being kind of like how do you know if you're being influenced by it or if you're like pushing away from it because it's like from since we were little we were taught like this is what girls do, this is what boys do, this is what you should do when you get older.
Yeah, so I think in the sense of, I guess for me it's more from a race perspective, I guess the heteronormativity, because like it's quote unquote not a thing in the black community. So I think that kind of like trying to hide it or keep it hidden is kind of like one of those things where it's like it's almost being gay is like not a thing, even though it's a very large thing. And so like we kind of only know to go along with the heteronormativity because it's what we're only exposed to or what we feel like is okay. So that's kind of like my experience on it.
You want to say anything in?
I would say that heteronormativity, well, I had to interact with it before I knew how to pronounce this. I'm reminded now of a story when I was like 3 or 4 and I was watching TV with my mom and people were playing volleyball at the beach for some garbage beer commercial. And the girls were playing and one was light and one was dark and my mom was asking little 4-year-old me, because even before you have a sexuality, you better have the right sexuality, you know what I mean? So she asked me like, hey Ian, which one, in Spanish, which one do you like more? And I just sort of, and then it pans to 2 guys playing volleyball, and I was like, that one.
That one?
No, honestly. And my mom was sort of like laughing, and she's like, wait, 4-year-olds don't have a sense of humor, what the fuck? And then, that she was like, who, the boys? And I was like, yeah. And I got whatever toy I had, and I walked away. So what I mean?
And that's that on that.
Yeah, exactly. So heteronormativity for me is, I used to talk with my friends at school, like calling them like boy rules and girl rules, really simply put. Heteronormativity is not just interacting with the world a certain way that is consistent with your host culture saying men, which are people with penises, this is not always the case, men behaving a certain way socially and women acting differently, typically in a way that is opposite to that male behavior. So heteronormativity also reinforces patriarchy because men are things and women are what is left over. So heteronormativity means to me this dynamic and also the shaping of young people, which is what we are before any of the genders that we inherit, the shaping of young people to identities that they have yet to actually understand or have an interest in understanding or developing.
That's very true.
Wow, this is a very comprehensive definition. This is great because part of it is that this is very complicated.
It is. I was going to say there's no one definition.
This is kind of a system that is constantly at work, always working. I think you call it host culture. I like that. It's just always at play in everything that people do. So and y'all kind of have alluded to this already, and this is a follow-up question. Do you feel that even in your own relationships, however they manifest, that heteronormativity is always constantly being imposed or maybe forced upon? Because I'm sure you've gotten questions about, so who's the guy, who's the girl? Right. In whatever kind of non-straight relationship that you may be in, has that happened before? And what are kind of like responses? Like, how do y'all kind of make sense of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked plenty of times whenever I do come out, because people don't typically read me as gay. So when I do get asked, when people find out I'm gay, their automatic is to add a label like, oh, you listen to Lady Gaga. No, that's a white thing. I don't listen to Lady Gaga. Want to come shopping with me? No, I don't really like shopping. And not because I see them as girl things. I'd like to stay at home, watching TV. Like that's the thing I do. But definitely even before, like when I started coming out as queer, I had to be comfortable and pretty much get rid of that toxic heteronormativity that enforced like a self-hatred onto me because I didn't want to be gay growing up. I come from a Catholic household. I did not want to be gay. My mom definitely said, hey, gay people go to hell. And it was like the one thing that straight people can get away with because that's the quote-unquote sin that they're never going to be tempted by. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they don't care about stealing, divorce. They don't care about, they don't even care things about murder. They don't protest against those things as much as gayness, because that is a sin that they never get tempted about. So for me, I didn't want to be queer, and when I finally came to terms with it, I had to pretty much get rid of these ideas of like, okay, well, now that I'm queer, I'm gonna get a partner that looks a certain way, that acts a certain way, because I don't want to be perceived a certain way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For example, like I typically like femme guys, and that's still true today, but it's not because I see them as less than, with before I would have seen them as less than, but now it's more like I just find that attractive. They tend to be funnier, they tend to be more just accepting of things, in my experience. And with masculine guys, they tend to just be turned off by everything. They don't want to do XYZ. They want to prove their masculinity 24/7. I don't really have time for that at my age. But back then, that is something that I definitely was a victim to, So I had to pretty much, I guess you could say, decolonize the way I saw gayness and how I operated within that realm, because of what society told me what gay people were like. I wanted to, quote unquote, break the stereotype, as if that matters. I should be who I am, regardless if it's a stereotype or not.
Wow. Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
I guess for me, in the sense of, I kind of already give off that image, right? So like when people see me, it's almost like when I go into a women's restroom. Like I get it all the time. Like people are looking like, why is there a man walking in here? And it's like, I know I don't look that much that way. So in the sense of, if straight people automatically feel that way about me, then the women that I'm attracted to are automatically going to assume like I am this very over masculine person, when in reality, like, I mean, I'm pretty masculine. Like I do pretty masculine things, but I don't see it as that way. I'm just me, I guess, for my understanding. Like that's it. Like when I come into a relationship, I'm a certain way. I'm a certain person. Very uplifting. Like I want you to be on the same level as me, if not better. That's how I approach things. But some people, they're really looking for something inside of this, and so like that's where a lot of like issues in relationships come from. Because I feel like for me within the gay community, like a lot of times, like women who date women have motherly issues. So like I've seen it in my relationships where like a lot of the women that I've dated, they literally had mom issues, and so they're looking for that caring personality in me that I give off already. And so it's like I have to do that, plus I also have to be like somewhat of the man of the relationship, and it's just like it's a lot. So you have to navigate, which is really hard to do, because everyone has their own agenda when they get into a relationship. So you have to understand, what you bring to the table and what you want to have out of your relationship to actually identify with that person that's going to bring that as well.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
I would like to add on to that, though, that a very common sort of homophobic trope is that, like, oh, gay guys have daddy issues and lesbians have mommy issues, and many straight people will hear queer people say that and misinterpret it. I want to clarify that this is a chicken and egg situation. It is not the case that people are gay because they have daddy or mommy issues or they have strained relationships. They have strained relationships because they are lesbian or gay.
Yeah.
And I want to clarify that before anyone with preconceptions on...
And also if they have a fear of coming out as well. I've dated a lot of women who they have a fear of how their mother or father is going to perceive them, so they don't. And that kind of brings a strain on the relationship as well, because it's like, here I am, I've been out since 9th grade, and here you are, 20 plus years old, and you're afraid to admit. And so it's like, that's another big thing to also deal with in the relationships besides the heteronormativity. And so, yeah, like you said, it's not just the fact that they have these issues, but it is like a strain on their relationship. I personally don't have that issue, which makes it hard when you're in a relationship with those issues. So
that's true.
But part of the heteronormativity is that the idea of coming out.
Yeah.
There would be no coming out without this constant hetero kind of thing, right?
That's the thing, definitely.
So, and it's a constant coming out, right? We
Yeah.
had episodes before, and we talked about how it's not just a one-time thing.
Yeah,
It's a constant kind of.
I think that happens more for you guys than anything, though.
Really?
Well, because people can quote unquote automatically tell. I guess for me that I'm attracted to women, but I think for men, because like it's almost like this. There's almost a shadow, like, is he? Is he not? Because it's a cultural thing, like, because like it's
or is
like
he just like, is he just
Is you know
It
was
is
he is he just
European.
feminine,
Yeah.
or is he like from Europe? Like there's things because like even in your even in your culture like you guys kiss
Or
like
Latinos,
that's
yeah.
that's a thing, and it's
Yeah.
like men do it to men, you guys do it to women, so it's like almost like is he like, and so like I feel like you constantly have to tell people like yeah like I'm attracted to men like
Yeah.
Actually, at work, I do play this game.
who can find out first?
No, it's not necessarily that. It's more like, I talk general in third person. I like to do that because I don't want to assume people's pronouns in general. But I also do that. I know that for me because I don't want people knowing my business. It's no one's business who I sleep with, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been with my partner for 7 years. I've been with Ian for 7 years.
Yeah,
And so,
He's like, hello.
and so when speaking in public, I'll be like, yeah, my significant other, my partner, etc., etc., etc. And they'll always assume girlfriend. Oh, your girlfriend, blah blah. Your girlfriend, blah blah. And then little by little, I'll switch from third person to like, oh yeah, blah blah, my boyfriend. The first time I do that, I see how they react,
You're like,
and depending on how they react, will determine whether or not I'm gonna trust this person to be a coworker friend or just a coworker that I'm not gonna associate with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had this one coworker who literally gasped. I didn't know you rolled that way, and I literally gasped, and I'm like, wait, are you straight? I didn't know you rolled that way. You know what I mean? Just to give her a taste of her own medicine, because it's kind of like, I do this because I know how people are so annoying about queerness. I wish it was just like
People
me
are
finding out
humanizing.
someone was like a Cancer or Sagittarius. Like if it was that, like it should be that
Trivial,
deep.
yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not. It's very much like a,
Oh my
and
gosh.
people do feel entitled to that information.
They,
Like,
Yeah.
when people literally think someone's gay, they feel like they should know because
the moment they
it's,
meet you.
yeah, because it's like they're entitled to that information. It's like
Yeah.
it's none of your business.
Yeah, it's really
who I
not.
sleep
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
It's
It
not-
doesn't change me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one thing that I think I've dealt with that was the hardest thing for me in the sense of when I came out. Like, I had the grades, I was playing sports, nothing changed about me.
Yeah.
It's just I was gay. So it's like I think people instantly associate that title of being gay with changing who you are and who you're going to become, when in reality that doesn't dictate that. That's just who I love.
It changes their perception of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not who you are at all. But it's funny that you said that you say my significant other, my partner. Whenever people say that, I automatically assume
That
gay.
they are.
They
Like,
I
I'm
know,
like-
yeah.
I'm
I was
like,
gonna say, wait,
ooh.
significant.
I had
Yeah.
a professor who did that. She kept calling her fiance her significant other and like her partner, and I was like, oh my god, is my favorite teacher a lesbian? And then she said he was a man, and like the disappointment. I was just
Like, it was just like,
I thought we had a lesbian. And she wasn't. I was very disappointed.
This is what heterophobia looks like.
I will say, my mentor, I don't
It
know.
shows. I
One of my
can't say
greatest
it.
mentors, I still to this day don't know, and I'm not gonna ask her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's her business, it's what she
Yeah.
wants to do. Even though I have my idea,
You're like,
my
But there
mentor
is-
is my mentor,
But
and
to Joey's point, there is this kind of this, and again, I think we can attribute it to heteronormativity. This kind of constant needing or wanting to know, like to kind of categorize, to pinpoint, and it doesn't happen to straight people.
it doesn't.
We do it to people who we believe are outside of the norm.
Mhm.
So we see someone who is maybe ethnically not what we assume them to be, or racially. Oh, I wonder if they're mixed. I wonder if
Yeah.
they're this.
Yeah.
What are they?
yeah,
What's going
and then
on?
they're literally like, I'm
Anyone who
Italian.
falls outside of what we
Yeah.
consider the norm ends up kind of being pathologized, ends up kind of being, I need to know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this constantly, and I think it's a byproduct of this kind of hetero, kind of normative world.
I just want to know, like, personally for me, my whole like question as a gay person, like, why is being straight normal? Like, why do we dictate that as normal? Because even with animals, like from a biological standpoint, a lot of courtship that happens between certain animals is very homosexual, and some people don't know that. And it's just
Yeah.
like, so why is it that being straight is considered the norm when in reality sexuality should just be sexuality? You're attracted to who you're attracted to. Now, we have our differences within our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I may not agree with that, or I may not agree with that, but it doesn't stop me from saying, like, who you love, and I'm glad that you're happy. I think straight people are automatically like, no, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be happy. Like,
Like,
what?
Unfortunately, that has to do with colonialism,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like we live in a
Religion.
society where Europeans colonized the rest of the world, and so they implemented this very Anglo-Christian view on gender. Their perception of gender was very binary. for us, for indigenous people, we had two-spirit people, we had multiple genders. We had, you know, in Mexico, there's still a tribe that has the Mushes, which are a two-spirit, which is a gender, literally, person, you know, and they're called Mushes, and they're respected people, you know what I mean? And so for a lot of our communities, we have two-spirit, and a lot of communities, unfortunately, because of colonialism, now we have these very homophobic, transphobic views on genders. You know, we have women can't play the drums, and men are the only ones that play the drums, and women have to be here, and men have to be here, and that's because of colonialism, which is where the term two-spirited comes from, which is kind of like reaching out to a sexuality and a gender identity that was pre-colonial, that was not influenced by the white man. And so for us, like for me specifically, let me say that when I see these gender roles, to me it's just like white people stuff that they enforce onto everyone, because even Africans didn't have such a narrow view on gender and sexuality. They had, just like we did, South Asians did too, you know, a lot of people did, but unfortunately Europeans enforced that. And now it's so funny because now you see white gays judging like the black community for their quote unquote homophobia, when it's like, dude,
y'all
your ancestors,
right?
Your ancestors did this, you know, and they literally will use that to hide their racism. They will literally attack black people the hardest because they see black people as
the most homophobic,
as opposed to being like, yo, y'all did this, you know.
There's also a tendency to, mostly in corners of Europe, but increasingly in the US, for a certain segment of politically inclined white gay man to use their gayness not just to deflect their racism, but to enforce their racism. In many corners of France and Germany, you see increasingly high voter turnout of white gays to far-right parties who want to stop immigration. Why? Because those Muslims are coming over here and they're super homophobic in those countries, and they're going to come over here and chop my hand off like in Aladdin, and oh my God, what am I going to do? When in all reality, in most of the Muslim world, this understanding of homosexuality was enforced by European colonialism. There's something called the Victorianization, nice long word, Victorianization of Islam.
You better pronounce that.
No, because they got you know, Safari open and shit. I'm just making it easy for you.
That's it. Go ahead.
And prior to this, there were societies of an Arabic mukhannathat, men who identified as women and lived amongst women, and they were left the hell alone. That is no longer the case. Why? Because when the French and the British imperialized a lot of the Middle East, North Africa, and the Indian subcontinent, they took with them their Victorian understandings of gender. And they saw mukhannathat being left the hell alone and thought, oh my God, this place is anarchic in terms of gender. So what I mean to say is gayness is used both as a shield for racism and also as a weapon. And we need to call out our fellow racist LGBTQ brothers and sisters when they do so, especially now when the surge of racially charged right-wing politics is on the rise everywhere in the world.
That is very true.
Yeah.
So speaking of, we've kind of been alluding to this kind of intersection of race and kind of sexuality and gender expression. So we were talking before the show about how many people within this kind of LGBTQIA plus community, if we can even call it that, kind of will choose race over sexuality over sexuality.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if we could kind of unpack that a little bit, because to a lot of folks, I think this is something that straight people don't have to quote unquote deal with this, even though I think they reinforce it just as much as anybody else, picking race over their sexuality. So what do y'all think?
Well, for me, I definitely think that there are a lot of times where I have to choose being a black woman first, because it's like, you know, oftentimes I personally don't feel like there's a lot of people fighting for black women. So it's like, I gotta be like, well, sorry that this is going on everywhere else, but like, I gotta put me first. I gotta put me in mine first. So I'm just like, you know, and it sucks because, you know, I saw a tweet the other day and it was like, it was saying like, it was asking like black women, like, what do you put first, your race or your gender? And I feel like that happens in the LGBT community a lot too. It's like, oh, you know, like black people should do this and black people are homophobic and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't feel like any part of me is free until all of me is free. And like the moment that like queer black women and queer black men are free, then like maybe we'll like know some freedom in this society. You know, that is my that's really how I feel. It's like I have to put being black first because, unfortunately, I am not unfortunately, but I live in a society where I walk into a room and my blackness is the first thing that's seen about me. I'm not really typically seen as a lesbian. I'm definitely. I always jokingly say that like I'm an undercover gay. I feel like a spy often on the straight communities because people don't know and they say like homophobic things around me and I'll just be sitting there like,
Oh really?
Yeah.
That gets to be like that?
Okay. And then it's like, well, little did you know you were amongst a lesbian this whole time.
Yeah. Little did you know.
Magic trick.
Yeah, like
Pull that one out.
now there's a lesbian. How do you feel now? But I can't do that with being black. I walk into a space and I'm black. I walk into anywhere, I go anywhere and I'm black. You know, I don't get to put anything over it. I'm a dark-skinned, nappy-haired black woman. Like, not that nappy hair is a bad thing, but it's something that I have and I'm proud of it. But that's just what it is. So I go into spaces, I'm black. I interview for a job. I go into a classroom. I can decide to come out. I can wait. I can feel out the room. I can't feel out the room on blackness.
Yeah, this is very true. Very, very true.
Wow.
I can agree with you on that. And I mean, kind of to just put it out there, you feel it on campus too.
Yeah. For sure.
FIU? What? I thought it was an
What?
embracing community.
Right, diversity.
Yeah, so I mean, and like let's be honest, like FIU is predominantly Spanish, right? Like it's not to say that they're not there, but the faculty doesn't represent the actual class population. And then on top of that, so we're a minority against the faculty, and then we're also a minority in the actual like class setup. So it's like on campus you even feel that way where it's like I gotta fight for this because I'm here, but I'm the only one that's here. Like especially in my program, like there is an African in my class, but that's a whole nother topic. But against Africans and African Americans, that's a whole nother topic on its own. But yeah, so in the sense of like being the African American, I'm the only one in my program, and that's sad because the program has been around for years. And so it's like not only do I have to fight for myself now in this program as a black male, Lord, as a black female.
That's the white man.
I don't know. As a black female, so I have to stand up in that sense, just like you're saying. Like that's the first thing I have to fight for to prove that because I am a black female that I'm here. Well, even bump the female part as a black person, I'm here and I'm capable of doing, what this program has set up for me not to be capable of doing. And so then it's like, okay, boom, like, okay, she's here, but wow, she's a gay female too. Like, wow, this is not what we expected.
Yeah, this is just a lot.
This is just a lot going on. And so for me, like, I can't be the magic trick in the room. Like, because I am who I am. I look how I look. And that's not going to change. And I haven't worn a dress since 2012. That's, like, done.
You're like, nah.
So, I mean, it's just a lot. This whole, like, heteronormativity and trying to maneuver it and trying to be gay plus who you are plus who you are to your family, who you are to your friends. It's just a lot.
And then even navigating like queer spaces as a person of color, I'd be so exhausted. I'd be like, I feel like it's literally, I mean, even in black spaces sometimes it's still a performance, but I'm not gonna lie, even though like sometimes I may not be out there being the most like lesbian, like just like being like whoop 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 lesbianism, when I'm in queer spaces I feel a lot more uncomfortable. Like I feel like I can be myself amongst black people way more than I do when I'm with queer people because I'll be the only
queer people of color or queer just people?
Queer people, like if I'm like in like let's say like there's an LGBT event, I'm gonna feel like just outnumbered.
Is it because it tends to be predominantly white?
Yeah, it definitely tends to be predominantly white.
Well, yeah, so I guess for me, like where I come from, like the city is more so on the end of like the gay community is more so black. So I really haven't had that issues, but more so the issue is like that's mainly what it is. There's no options. And a lot of times the options that you do point out are taken. So then it's like, what do I do? Like, I'm here, I'm out, I'm about, and it's like, what do I do? Because now I'm like, I don't know what I do, because it's like nothing's an option, right? So I don't know.
Definitely my experience at FIU, I tried, like as soon as I got accepted to FIU, I was like,
FIU real quick is Florida International University, in case.
I forgot you have all these like followers that don't know.
So we're in Miami.
Because you're the big man. 20,000 followers.
At Florida International University, I started joining all these queer spaces because I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be with a bunch of LGBT people. I'm gonna, join
like,
the community.
I'm here, I'm queer.
Yeah, and then like there was a bunch of white gays, and I was like, oh, I never met white people before, so whatever. I also get like white Latinos, and that's a whole different ballgame. But
yeah, I was gonna say, wait, what?
but like I'll go to these spaces, and I started talking to one, and like one of them, like just my experience, like going through LGBT spaces, one white dude threatened to call ICE on me.
No way.
Yeah, one of them, what is it? They were basically like referring to my country as like cocaine. I'm Colombian. I come from a tribe in Colombia, so he was just like, oh, y'all over there doing cocaine, and I'm just like, no, dude. And he was this white gay dude, right? And it ended up being like literally all the black. It was me, all the black queers, and all the white queers. Literally.
That's how I feel like.
And I was just like, and like my roommate ended up my big actually. I was in a fraternity for LGBT, and it literally became like all the queer people of color on one side and all the white queers. And I got so close to my big. He's an African American, and he moved in with me. We've been living together for like 3 years, and he became one of my closest friends. And it was literally like that. Like, I learned that I was like, holy shit, I'm my race first before I'm queer. And that's gonna be true in every space. When I go out to like a gay club or a bar with my native friends, it's always white gays coming up to us like, oh, I love your jewelry, touching the hair.
Don't touch me.
You know what I mean? It's just like, again, it's entitlement.
I think that's a rule they don't understand. Can we put that out there?
They don't understand.
White people don't touch people of color's hair.
Don't touch us in general. We don't
That
like
even
y'all.
nobody being touched. All right,
They don't
we got that out there.
They don't be exfoliating their skin, so I don't need them flakes on me. My God.
Oh my gosh, literally.
Like,
Not need that
first of all,
feeling.
No flakes.
There's a
No
lot going
flakes.
on.
No
There's
flakes.
a lot going on.
Oh my
There's a
God.
lot going on.
They don't put on lotion. Like, let's just
Stop.
start and end there.
Apparently they don't wash their legs either.
Oh my God!
Stop.
Don't start that discourse.
Stop. We're not
Apparently
gonna
they
start
let
this.
the soap
We're
run
not.
down.
All right. So.
That's Taylor.
I'm sick right now.
Oh my God.
We wear
Jesus.
lotion and we sober legs, so we don't want.
We wash our feet too.
And
With wash rags.
No, wash towels. No, but the soap's already clean. Alright, so y'all saw that episode? That's a whole nother
I saw
conversation.
that.
I'm sorry.
We threw you off.
But one thing, so y'all are talking about race or ethnic identity in queer spaces, and you're saying that oftentimes race or ethnicity trumps sexuality or gender expression. But what about in non-queer spaces? Does the same happen where race kind of trumps it? In your experiences, is it sexuality? Is it maybe both? It depends on the space and the time. Is it complicated?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
in the club,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, go ahead. Do you?
No.
Go ahead first.
That was me doing me. Yeah.
I mean, in the club, when people start drinking, race, like sexuality, goes out the window.
That's true.
Like it goes out the window. Like you start to see people you've seen straight their entire time, literally turn a gay card, and it's like, so is it the liquor speaking or is it you? You know what I mean? Because it's because like a drunk man tells no lies, right? Like, and that's kind of like a rule of thumb that I go by. So in the sense of a setting, like in the sense of drinks and bar hopping and clubbing and that's why I can go to straight clubs and straight bars and all this stuff with my straight friends, because I kid you not, there's going to be about 10 or 15 women in there, who came as straight, and then all of a sudden the liquor hits, and it's like, you're so beautiful, like, and it's like, huh? Like, I just seen you twerking on that man over there like 5 seconds ago. Like, what?
Curiosity jumped out.
Like, wait a minute, so, and in the sense
The
of,
curiosity jumped out.
it's certain settings where in the sense of like, your race not necessarily won't matter, but in the sense of sexuality, it's just like a open book at that point, and it's just like, people are like, I'm willing to showcase this in this setting because, so for me, when I go out, I'm me, like, that's what it is. But like in a school setting, in the sense of like that's majority like straight, right? Like you don't know at that point in time. I'm more so like trying to prove myself as a black person. So yeah, it definitely is scenario dependent for me.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was actually very privileged to grow up here in Miami because here, like in my high school, queer people were pretty much accepted. Like I had a dude who was prom queen, you know, at my high school. So
That's
for me,
nice.
like I grew up surrounded by, you know, queer people who were just kind of like, and that's what helped me come to terms with it quicker than a lot of other people. And I think that's to do with the fact that I grew up here in Miami. So it's always been race first. Queerness is pretty much an irrelevance to me. Especially after college, I learned real quick that race comes 100% first. So I literally will relate to someone on the basis of their race first, and then queerness. If I find out they're a queer person of color, even better. You know, we'll have like a more intimate relationship. But I do tend to relate to, you know, straight people of color easier.
Yeah, same.
To straight people of color.
Straight people of color, yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Why white straight people? It's annoying just because, you know, I have to deal with their racial curiosities of, oh my god, I've never met a native person, you know, and then I have to deal with, and then they find out I'm queer, and then they have like this weird straight guy humor, you know. For women it tends to be easier, but for like straight men, it's just annoying. Like they have like this weird straight man humor that's like edgy, like as racist as possible, as misogynistic as possible. And you know, it's just cringy. And it's because like I play a lot of video games a lot, so I'm surrounded by like straight men that play video games.
Oh god.
And that is even worse. Like that community is so edgy that they try to be as racist as
I
possible.
hear some of the comments when you guys are like
definitely.
recording. It's like, what?
They try to be as like problematic as they can be.
Yeah, it's literally like that. It's trying to be as like I had a username that was in Spanish, and I've been kicked out of groups because like all Latinos don't play video games well. And it was like I had no idea that was even a thing. So I was like, I learned that real quick. I learned that real quick just to put like an English name, and then I had to mute my mic because if they hear me, sometimes people can hear like an accent. So
He sounds Latino.
so automatically I've been gotten like burritos comments, build a wall, a lot of build a wall lately. Build a wall as soon as they hear my voice. I had girls once was like, oh, say sexual stuff, papi. Like, it's weird. Gaming is weird.
Yeah,
That's not the topic anyway.
But this is interesting. So because we kind of, and that's one of the things that we were talking about before the show, kind of debunking this idea that LGBTQIA+, this is one big happy family, right? Because we're talking about experiences in relation to gay men, queer women, different gender expressions, like, and it's all kind of, there are similarities when it comes to race, at least within y'all. Like there's like a theme of that from what I'm hearing. There are kind of these similarities of racial kind of experiences amongst, or in relation to white people, but kind of the queer kind of experiences are differently nuanced because of gender expression and kind of sexualities. So, like, this was a question that kind of came up weeks ago in a different episode, but the question was posed to women: do black women, it was black women on the show, do you feel more comfortable with white women because they're women,
Absolutely
or with
not.
black men because they're black?
Complicated
So
relationship.
so this question, like, do you sometimes feel more kind of comfortable with people who are queer because of their sexuality, or POCs, people of color? And we kind of touching on it, but I was hoping we could answer that question a little bit more directly.
POCs, 100%.
Yeah.
POCs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, we got a
Yeah.
comment from Joan. I think we can all agree that whiteness is generally horrible. And oh no to white women. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I do not feel comfortable with white feminism, white women, their entire whiteness. It's just too much for me. It's too abrasive to my blackness. I'm not trying to, get into like a disagreement with a white woman and then she uses her whiteness to make me a villain, because that happens.
Yeah,
I start
absolutely.
crying.
Being the angry
Then
black
I'm
woman,
angry, then I'm aggressive, then
Yeah.
I'm confrontational.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Because I'm calling you out on what
something you did.
you did, and now that makes me the quote unquote angry black woman.
Yeah, now I'm a villain. I'd rather just stay away from that, because gay white men do the same thing. Gay white women, white people, they victimize themselves a lot. No offense, love you guys, not really, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
and they victimize themselves a lot, and I don't have time for it. At least with like, and this is probably sad, but at least with Black people, at least with other people of color, like unless we start getting really like somehow the conversation goes just churchy or something, we're all good. Like we're gonna talk about how we grew up. We're gonna talk, we just have things to relate to. Like
I was gonna say it's all in the relation.
what am I gonna relate to queer white people about? Just okay, I like girls, you like girls.
Yeah, and it's like,
Next.
have you ever had your lights cut off?
Yeah, like you don't.
Have you ever had to, you know, eat beanies and weenies? What is beanies and weenies? Like what? Like
fucking beanies and weenies.
they don't know like that we have to wash our we don't wash our hair. We get like there's just so many things they don't relate to. They never had.
You don't wash your legs. What?
yeah, right.
They never had to like deal with, you know, being embarrassed by their moms in very specific Black moms.
So there are these kind of cultural aspects that we kind of. What about y'all?
So I have a white ass face. That means that my reception in any and all spaces, I'm gonna say spaces of people of color, but any and all spaces is gonna be different. I can relate a lot to what you guys were saying though, because while I have a white ass face, my mom's family is Spaniard, my father's family is Puerto Rican mixed. And so I grew up knowing that like my brother's face was a brown face, that my grandmother's face was a black face, and so brownness and blackness was still in the part of my brain that's like, okay, family. So when I came to interact with white gay people, I felt out the room similar to how you talk about sexuality. I got to do that with my coloredness, quote unquote, which is a very particular privilege that I had.
Yeah.
And I got exactly, and I got to feel that very much from like the white gay community, that they see me and my name is Ian. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your parents set you up with that.
Yeah. They're like, oh my God. They're like, this is family.
The only like reason I knew you were like, you know, Hispanic was because you started talking like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could have just been from Miami, but you started saying like certain. Like you're not saying certain Spanish phrases.
He had no Puerto Rico. Don't do that. He had no Puerto Rico.
But in these spaces, I get to just sort of coast until it's brought to my attention that by some external conversation, because white gays hang out with white gays, that I think this way about brown people and Latinos, and I'm like, alert, that's your brother. Keep be on the lookout. Or that these people and the Muslims coming in, and I alluded earlier that I'm Muslim. And because I don't look Muslim, I get to just sort of detect that and then do what I need to do.
Yeah.
So what I mean to say is, what comes first, sexuality or race? Not my race, because in this society I am white, but definitely my my inclination towards people of color is stronger because they are in my family tree and they are in my place of worship. And so when it comes to that, I'm going to need to side with the second, because people of color are not coming after my home. Like, they're not coming after my undocumented loved ones. They're not coming after my brown brother who had to move from Puerto Rico because the island was left in such disrepair by the Trump administration. I will get to that later. And they're not coming for my house. And I think what I need to say about the experiences of people of color is that you need to secure the home from which you came before you secure the bedroom. And in this and in this dynamic, I'm going to need to side with people of color. Yeah.
I think often people who are let's say like in interracial couples, like
exactly.
The queerness or the straightness. I think a lot of times when people are in these interracial couples, they forget in the sense of what it means to vouch for your people while you're dating a certain type of person. This is your prime opportunity to get that person or that person's family to understand, like I am dating your daughter, but please don't forget that I am a black man and I am targeted, or I am a black female and I do have to experience these things when it comes to childbirth or this and that, and how the statistics against me are greater for these types of things. But it's almost like as soon as they start dating someone opposite of their race, it's like, none of that bothers me no more until they get pulled over or until they have to have that child, and then the child comes out and it looks more like them, and the family is like,
we don't really like this too much.
Gnarly.
So it's like it's those types of things where yes, you absolutely have to vouch for your race and make that okay before the next step. And I think, as much as like a lot of LG all them letters try to prove, you know what I'm saying, like we're here and we're in numbers, yes we are, but there are bigger fish that have to be fried before we can all join in and hold hands and kumbaya. It's a lot, because there's that racism that's just between straight people and gay people. It's the same. Just between straight people, it's the same between gay people.
Of course.
And so until we fry that fish, there's never going to be a time where you go into a setting and you're like, even at the parades, like, yeah, we're all lovey-dovey at the parade, but I can tell you, I'm not supposed to be here, so,
definitely,
those feelings will always be there, and it sucks, but there is a solution, but it won't be to the old.
So we have a question. We've had other questions throughout the show, but I thought they were stupid, so I asked them. But and I don't have to say that, but no, they were. But Joan is asking. So Joan was saying that's a word regarding secure the house before you can secure the bedroom. That might get tattooed on me somewhere. Joan's saying, but
both of you coming with the lines.
Joan is asking, but is it fair to segment parts of yourself, like choosing the right to marry or adopt versus immigration issues? Like, how does one even begin to balance one over the other? Is what Joan, and it's a very real question, yeah.
So for me, I'm gonna be honest, my family is undocumented. I'm very open about that. When it came to the right to marry, indifferent, did not care. Honestly, my family came first. My right to marry, I can marry Ian in secret and whatever. And yeah, I know that there's certain privileges that straight people when they get married have and whatever. But honestly, my family came first, and that just, for me, so seeing the LGBT fight, it was, since black issues are ignored, because if we're quite honest, in LGBT history has always been black women, trans women who fight for the LGBT, since that segment gets completely ignored. Really, the only fight that gets fought is the white queer rights. So for me, it's like, if we're not fighting for a black woman, then I don't care about LGBT rights.
Exactly.
I'm really fighting for, my racial groups struggles and for black issues, because oftentimes as a Native person I just see black issues and Native issues like intertwined. Like, in order for me to be free, we have to help our darker relatives. That's just how it is.
That's very true. Like, it's like, how can I care about that if I'm not safe, if I'm not comfortable in the society? Like, relationships and all of that to me is the future, right? But I need to be safe right now. Like, I don't feel safe as a black woman in this country all the time, so that's more of a priority to me. Like, why am I going to fight? And that's kind of what my issue sometimes with white women and sometimes black men and oftentimes gay white people, is that I feel like they're all kind of just a little bit salty that they're not as privileged as cis straight white men. So they're just like, if only I could just have that little bit more privilege, if only I could just have that one more thing. While I'm over here gay, black, dark skinned, fat, lesbian. So I'm just like, well, while I have no privileges, there are some, like being able-bodied and things like that, but I'm like, I don't want to work for you to get these little cushy privileges while my black brothers and are being murdered, and while black women are dying in childbirth. Like, no, I'm not gonna make sure that you get to get married and have a nice home with you and your spouse, and that. Why is that a priority for me? Why should I fight for that?
And I guess the whole main message from this is that this is what the white gay community wants. These are the things that the white gay community, again, they want for themselves, and they don't understand where our issues lie a lot deeper. You know what I mean? So if we were all on the same level playing field, granted, yes, I want to be able to marry the person that I love, because again, marriage is seen as this, ultimate thing, right? Like, this is you giving yourself to this individual, you guys are growing together, but you already do that in a 7-year relationship, right? You know what I mean? So, for me, marriage wasn't a big deal. Yes, wow, that's a win for the gay community. That's a win for that portion of me. But at the end of the day, I still have this
Oh,
stronger, you know,
100%.
thing that's like really bothersome. You know what I'm saying? Like it sucks when you walk into a room and like you said, the first thing you see is my color and not what I'm bringing to the table.
Yes.
And I'm even noticing like when I go to do presentations for my research, like I'm dressed up. Like I'm dressed up now. Again, it's slacks and a button down, which is again, quote unquote, not normal. You know what I mean? But it's the fact that I'm dressed like that and I'm black and I'm presenting my dissertation work. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's I don't know. It's just it's
a lot.
beyond me.
So we have about 9 minutes left. It's been almost an hour already.
That's crazy.
I don't want to talk about straight people too much, right? Because we talk about them a lot as it is. Maybe like 2-3 minutes. Just if we could talk a little bit about kind of these relationships with, because a lot of friends that I have that identify as LGBTQ, a lot of friends are like, yo, like dealing with straight people is just a lot. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. So maybe we could just kind of talk a little bit about that, maybe like 2-3 minutes.
Good experience.
So yeah.
So for me, like with straight people, I have a lot of straight friends, but I look back at like how straight people portray us in the media. There's this thing called like queer coded characters, and you saw a lot when
Queer coded characters.
coded characters, coded that are like seen as gay,
Like
right?
queer baiting.
Yeah, like queer baiting, for example. So for example, like back when we were kids, you know, things like Lion King, where the bad guy was this
Scar.
sassy,
Scar
was
definitely
sassy, darker
queer-coded.
skin, sassy, you know, very conniving, queer coded. The bad guy from Pocahontas had braids and ponytails and like a bow at the end, very feminine.
Definitely Ursula.
Ursula was
drag
based off of
queen.
drag queen.
Yeah.
So straight people already have this perception that we are bad, we are evil, and so it shows when they befriend us because, you know, they're uncomfortable, they don't think we're trustworthy, they think that we're trying to sleep with them.
Oh my
So many
gosh,
straight guys think I'm gonna try to sleep with them, and I'm like, you're not my type.
Don't really want to.
Yeah. So like I need a guy that exfoliates. And straight guys in general, they be using 5-in-1, they be using shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, like
No, not the head.
you know what I mean? Like, they be
Are
using
you okay?
You know?
That's not it.
Like,
You feel
I need
personally victimized?
a guy that cleans himself, and unfortunately, straight guys typically don't. Thank God for things like Queer Eye, where straight people are learning what conditioner is. Hallelujah.
Amen.
But you know, let me rephrase like straight men because
Yes.
women tend to already, you know, condition their hair. At least I hope so. But yeah. So to me, I'm just like straight people already come with this idea of like we're evil. So I very much see that in relationships, with like friendship level relationships, and I'm just like, there's a lot to deal with. I don't want to be your friend, and then I just don't. So I have a lot of queer friends, but the straight people that I do friend are the ones that literally are so indifferent about my gayness that they sometimes either forget or they just don't care. Like I've had people where I come out and they're like, yeah, whatever, here, and then they leave or something, you know, because they just don't care.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I want. I want relationships where me being gay is like, who gives a fuck. I don't want the other side as well, where I've kissed Ian in front of, you know, girls and they're like, oh my god, you guys are so cute, and they pinch your.
You're so
brave.
Oh my.
No, but like it almost
Like, oh my
feels
god, you're
like
so cute. Like you're like a puppy or like a baby.
like a puppy, like a zoo to them. Like,
Yeah.
and it's a form of dehumanizing us, right? I want to be just a normal, like if I can
Regular.
hold hands with Ian. I've been with Ian for 7 years and still I cannot hold his hand without it being a political statement.
That
That
is
to me
true.
is
Yes.
fucked up.
No,
That's
I don't even hold my
I don't either. I don't, because it's a political statement. Everyone stares at
is.
you. They think you're doing it because you're being like
Like-
XYZ edgy.
Shove it in
Yeah,
my
like
face.
like
like
PDA
you wanna
for
be
queer
gay
people
so
is
bad.
PDA for gay people is definitely it's a political statement.
It's a
for
political
sure.
statement, and I
that's-
hate it. I've been with Ian for 7 years. I just want to be invisible. I just want to be invisible, you know. And to me, that's my relationship with straight people. I'm unable to be invisible with my significant other.
I would say for me, sometimes something that frustrates me with straight people is definitely the, like you said earlier, they're like their need to know everything. They're feeling like kind of like entitled to questions. They're entitled to want to know everything. I tend to experience straight people asking very personal questions about queer sex life, like lesbian sex, that they would not be comfortable being asked themselves. Like I've never asked my straight friends, like, did you suck dick on the first date? Like I've never really asked
So
that.
I guess for me, I guess I'm a little different. Like, well, at least my friends are different. I think it's also like a age thing as well. Like I do feel like older straight people that I'm around, like there's certain ways that I act. But then like when I'm around my friends, like all my friends are straight. Like it's never an option for me to be like, we're going to a gay club tonight. Like that's not an option for me to say, because I'm not gonna put any of my homeboys in that situation. Like that's just out of respect for them.
That's
right.
That in itself is also interesting.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like you don't want to put them in that situation.
Yeah, so not to say that they have an issue with gay guys, you know, like even for Vegas, for example, just a quick story. I was looking up pool parties, and one kept popping up. It was Temptation Sundays, and I'm like, okay, like it's only $25, whatever, like that. Temptation Sundays.
That sounds.
Yeah, so I didn't think nothing about it. I'm like, Temptation Sundays, like okay, like you know, it's gonna be lots of women, lots of this, lots of that. Then I go to the Eventbrite for it, and it's like the longest gay running pool party, and I'm like, nope, not happening, because it's just like I'm not even gonna do that to my friends, because like I said, when you get in those settings, sexuality just disappears, especially for women. Not necessarily for men, but for women it disappears. So it's easier for me to maneuver in a straight party than it is for my friends to maneuver in a gay party.
Also, men get objectified in gay spaces, so straight men in a gay space
They freak
would
out.
be objectified.
They
So
sure would.
you know, they're treated like quote unquote women are outside of gay clubs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in gay clubs, men are treated like women, so they don't like it.
But it's funny because men, they like treating women like that, but they don't like to be objectified.
Exactly.
They get like super cringy and like, oh my god, why are you looking at my butt? And don't look at me. But they
don't like it when a guy does it.
Yeah.
The T.
Do
We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, I just wanted to add to the dimension also of like religiosity among queer and straight people, because like among my friends, either in but also whether in the church or in the mosque, when I'm with my straight friends in religious spaces, one of the few definite upsides is that no one is asking where I put my what and how and for why and for how long and all of those details, because it's a religious space.
yeah.
So in a lot of ways, like when I'm in the company of, let's say, religious Muslims who are homophobic and have questions, or like secular Western race, typically white homophobic people who have questions, I'm gonna actually be more comfortable in the mosque, because they're asking about the substance of my personality and my soul and my relationship with God and stuff I want to talk about. When I'm with random secular Americans who are homophobic, they're gonna ask, how does this go there and how and why? And I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think, you speaking about religion though, something that also bothers me about dealing with straight people is holier than thou
That too.
folks. Because I'm like, we all, like, I'm not trying to get
We're
religious
gonna
with
get turned
y'all.
to stone.
I'm not trying to get religious with y'all, but like, people be sinning. Like,
People
you know,
be sinning.
No, y'all really.
your friends or acquaintances
That's a
be
shirt. Someone make that a shirt.
People be sinning.
literally,
Well,
but like as soon as you talk about being
yeah.
gay, it's like, I mean, that's totally cool for you, but it is a sin. And it's like, okay.
What they say, a
You
thumb
was
is a
just
thumb,
sucking
right?
dick, like
You was
Like a thumb is a thumb. Like no sin is greater than
exactly
the other.
like you was just
Yeah.
sucking dick,
Yeah.
and you're not married to nobody, but you worried about
Yeah.
this
You didn't
sin.
wait to marriage.
I've had straight girls tell me that gay people cannot be monogamous, and I'm like, that's funny. You're hooking up with like 5 guys this week. I've been in a relationship with Ian for like 7
Period.
years.
Yeah.
So.
Tell him.
So with that said,
That was our 5
man,
minutes
live
of
your
straight
life,
people.
man. Live your life, man. Stop being a piece of shit out here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so tune in. Like, well, I'm posting on YouTube. I think this is extremely insightful. This is probably the episodes where a lot of gems were just dropped.
Yeah. I bet one that's secure
Yo,
the
should have
secure
a
your
pop-up.
house before secure your
Person, when
bedroom.
you edit it, you should have it pop up next to the person, like bam. Like,
Bam.
This is
Right.
what they
Jam.
said.
That's it,
Yeah,
that's
it is
it,
that.
that's it.
Gem dropping.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all next week. So thanks y'all.
Next
Thank
Wednesday,
y'all.
tune
Thank y'all.
in.
Tune in.
Bye.
Tune in.
You woke yet?
Yeah, we're